Hello, and welcome to the Evelyn Y. Davis studios at the National Press Foundation. Do you want to make your online journalism pop? Do you want to create the visuals and interactives that will allow readers to mine the data you've uncovered, making for a richer story experience? That's what we're here to learn about as we talk about using Tableau software to make stories richer and more meaningful. The National Press Foundation is a nonprofit dedicated to helping journalists cover complex topics with depth and accuracy. We serve journalists in the U.S. and around the world. I'm Chris Adams, Director of Training at the National Press Foundation. I'm joined by Davidson of Tableau Software. He's here to tell us about how to use Tableau to create maps, charts, and other interactives. Dash, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So, we're here to talk about Tableau for use in journalism, but I was hoping you could give me a sense, what is Tableau? What's the Tableau company? What are the other uses for it? And then we'll talk a little bit about journalism.
So Tableau is a business intelligence software company. So what that means is we create software that allows businesses, but also people, to extract value and understand data.
Mm-hmm.
The premise is that there's really data out there everywhere, and your average person doesn't have the technical skills or the know-how or really the passion or ability to get value from that data. So Tableau is an easy-to-use, very powerful software that at its simplest level lets you take an Excel spreadsheet and create interactive charts and graphs and maps and dashboards with it. Okay. So for journalists, we have a free product called Tableau Public, which is just anyone can download it at public.tableau.com. And it's designed for public data, so no private, personal company data, public data. And journalists use it to embed graphics in their articles. And we've seen great success in a lot of our growing user base over the years.
Okay, so give me a sense, and we'll look at some examples in a little bit, but give me a sense of, if I'm a journalist and I'm looking to kind of make my online presentation a little bit different, what are some of the basic forms that I can use Tableau to help me create?
So Tableau it's an extremely broad tool. So it's very useful for mapping your data, for example. It's great at just creating any sort of chart, bar chart, bullet chart, pie chart, any possible chart you can make. And the best thing about Tableau is it's all interactive. So instead of having just a static image on your article, Tableau actually lets your reader interact with the data. So we see a lot of really good exploratory dashboards where a whole host of data, a whole large data set is contained in a very accessible and well-designed interactive dashboard, allowing the reader to not just take what you the journalist are saying at face value, but actually to dig in and explore the data on their own.
Okay. Well, we have a video, kind of an overview of Tableau, and so let's watch that video right now.
Great.
Tableau was born out of a need to ask and answer questions of data in real time. Tableau Public allows you to take your data and bring it to life. It allows you to visualize it and share it with others in a way that they can actually understand it. And allows you to easily embed it on your web page so that others can see it. It starts by immediately connecting you to the data. And Tableau does a lot of the work for you to figure out what the data type is. It's not just about turning a boring table into some eye candy. The data visualizations are live. So what you can do is drag and drop the data right onto the canvas and immediately start to see some results. Immediately start to answer some of your questions. You can interact with one chart in such a way that the other ones change as well. So it allows you to have this really deep experience where you can continue to navigate through a million different questions. You can quickly look at things in a whole new way. The dashboard is actually a fully functional application that you can embed right into your website. All this without writing any code. When you visualize data, it lets you create an exploratory environment where other people can discover other insights based on the questions that they have. This is why Tableau Public was created. It's a free tool. It's for anyone to use. It allows this dialogue to take place. You don't need to understand code and know how to program. You don't have to develop software. You don't have to be some design expert. All you need to be is an explorer.
Okay, so that's the overview of Tableau. I want to ask a couple basic questions for the journalist who's kind of coming at this new. First of all, does a journalist need to be familiar with Excel or other spreadsheet programs, or is it not that complicated to be able to get into it?
So Tableau sits on top of your data. So, you could have an Excel file, a CSV, any just data set. So you really don't need to have any knowledge or ability to transform that underlying data set if you have the ability to work Tableau, because Tableau you should think of it as your mouthpiece into the data. So it sits on top of the data and allows you to create and analyze that data in really new ways.
Okay, and if you've never worked with a mapping program before, is it still fairly intuitive to be able to work in Tableau?
Yeah, Tableau is designed, everything in Tableau is just drag and drop. That's the whole interface. So there's no coding, no formulas, no nothing. Everything is right in front of you. You just drag it and drop it around different areas of what we call the canvas to create our visualizations.
Okay, so let's look at some examples of how other journalists have used this, and then we're going to have you lead us through an example, kind of an in-depth example that you put together for CNBC. But some of the ways that media sites, media organizations have used it. One site used it to track which songs the DJs at the radio station were playing, so maybe just tell me a little bit about this example.
Yeah, so this example is a really interesting one because it uses a lot of different kind of worksheets. So each of these visualizations that we're looking at now tell a specific story. And the really cool thing is there are just so many of them included in this article. So each one, if we actually just scroll down the article itself a little bit more, tells a slightly different story, and each of them has a different angle on this question of what music matters most to this radio station. And you see there's all sorts of multimedia involved too, there are YouTube videos and everything is embedded directly in the article. So I really like this example for the depth and the different diverse takes on the data that it has. You can see each of these charts is really very different, and all riffing off that same central question, what music matters most to KEXP.
Okay. And now we from expansion.com, we have a fairly simple example, the kind of thing that I think any kind of economic or policy journalist might do, about quality of life indicators and economic activity in Spain. The story, I can't read it, but I can see the chart. And if we click through there, it's a very easy to understand combination of a map and the charts. So the people who can read the language here can kind of can search by different economic indicators.
Exactly. So this is a great example of, what you see is what you get, but just compare this to what a lot of other sites would do. They would just have an image, right? And this is a great example of how interactivity can really enhance the experience of the reader, as well as, the big axiom we like to say at Tableau is everything is more impactful if it matters personally to you. So if you look down there at the bottom, this dashboard, this Tableau visualization got 408,000 views. And that's an incredible amount of views. Almost 500,000 people viewed this. And one of the reasons we think it was so successful is that a user can go and select, which region that they live in, and then filter the data to show the actual economic indicators of that region, as compared to, a static graphic where you wouldn't really be able to customize it to your individual preferences.
Okay. Now let's go to a couple that you actually worked on yourself. One is an interesting take on the Moneyball effect in sports. This is from the Huffington Post. And so you were basically looking at the Moneyball effect using analytics in managing baseball teams and looking at it for other sports. So maybe explain about this one for a little bit.
So this interesting report came out. It was an ESPN survey where they looked at all the teams in all these different leagues and categorized them based on, 5 metrics, or into 5 different categories of how all in they were about analytics. So what we decided to do was just a very simple look at this category of, buy-in to analytics and the winning percentage over a period of time. And we were hoping to see that there was a correlation between, how committed your organization was to analytics and the corresponding winning percentage of your team. And if you look at it, there was really not that significant a correlation, which in fact it was interesting in its own right. And really it made me just question the methodology behind the ESPN data gathering. So going back to the original point, Tableau is only as good as the data that feeds it. So in this instance, I felt that the data itself might have been a little bit lacking. So we tried to visualize it in as accurate a way as possible, but there's really no getting around the underlying data.
Okay. And then, so we've dealt with music, we've dealt with quality of life indicators, we've dealt with sports, and now a pretty serious topic, human trafficking. And so you worked on an example, or a visualization with CNBC about using kind of a mapping and a tier system to kind of show where human trafficking is going on around the world. So could you explain that particular story, what you were attempting to accomplish with it, and then lead us through how you actually executed it?
Yeah, definitely. So a little bit of background here. CNBC is a great partner of ours at Tableau Public, and we've done a lot of exciting work with them in the past. So I was at their offices in New Jersey right around Christmas time, and they said they were about to work on this large human trafficking project. So it seemed to me that this was a great opportunity to do some data visualization. And the reporter I was working with, she had this Excel document showing all the countries in the world separated by their different tiers of how susceptible they are to human trafficking. And I can actually pull it up for you right here and show you exactly what I'm talking about. So here's the actual data set. It's actually very simple. It's just each country, what tier they are, and then what region of the world, and if they're on a watch list, so if they're liable to move up or down a tier. So this was the data that I was working with, and then I decided to actually try to visualize it. And maybe first it'd be interesting to show the finished product on the web, on CNBC's actual website. Yeah, so this is the story that they came to, and as we can see, it's a very long form, investigative report. So it was very, very gratifying for me to work on such an important piece. And here's the actual data viz that we came up with. And what we were going for here, Chris, was simplicity. So I wanted a reader to be able to just look at this and see, okay, where are the problem areas in the world? As well as, for my more engaged readers, to be able to actually interact with it. So maybe if we could try just selecting the tier 3 countries, so just selecting that tier 3, and then the map will update to only show the countries that are, particularly susceptible to human trafficking. So what we were going for was simplicity, as well as the ability to kind of unexpectedly interact with this, because we find that many users are not familiar with this form of interactive data viz. So when they actually just mouse around and see that these tooltips pop up and give them more information, it really compels them to interact with the view even further and gain even more value out of it.
Okay. And then so actually putting it together, could you show us that?
Definitely. So we started with this Excel file that I was just demonstrating. So this was the data I had to work with. So next task was what to do with it in Tableau. So first thing, I just connected my data, simply connected the Excel file to Tableau, dragged out the worksheet I was working on, and started working. So you asked earlier about kind of making a map. So this is actually how easy it is to make a map. I simply just drag country, drop it out onto my canvas, and just like that, I have a map of the world. So then all I did was I simply colored the map based on the tier that the country was in. And I thought it would look better if it was a filled map. So each country now gets its own special tier. Here we go. Oops. And now to a user who's just, glancing at this, they can see very clearly the different tier levels. So they're my problem countries, they're my particularly good countries, they're my countries somewhere in between.
Okay.
And then the concept of actually making an interactive dashboard where we combine the elements that we saw in the article of that top part where you can filter the bottom part. I just created a little table here where we allow the user to kind of, again, using that concept of making data relevant and making it hit close to home. So we just made a chart like this, combined the two together on a dashboard. And of course, this is a quick example. I spent a lot more time formatting it. But essentially, this is what we ended up with. And then the ability to filter from this sheet down to the map. So that when you click different regions and different tiers on my table up top, it filters the map.
Okay. And now, once you have this created, how do you get the coding? How do you actually embed it?
How do you get it up to the web? So you simply go File, Save to Tableau Public, and then once you log into your account, the information gets sent from my local computer up to our Tableau Public hosted servers. So just like that, you get something that lives on your desktop and get a online version. And that's exactly the same functionality and same design. And from there, you're able to embed it directly through JavaScript embed code just directly into your site.
Okay. And does it have to go any particular frame size on your site, or is it flexible that way?
So there are different ways to manipulate the sizing. So if you look down here on the actual bottom left, we have our size boundaries right here.
Okay.
So you have all sorts of different options. You can size it for different devices, as well as making it flexible in this range sizing. So there are different options there.
Okay. Well, that's a great example. So we're going to do some other examples with you, and showing some more detail on mapping and some more detail on storyboarding or story points. So I think that's it for the overview. And so thank you for joining us today from the Evelyn Y. Davis Studios at the National Press Foundation, where we make good journalists better. Today we've heard from Davidson of Tableau Software about how to make your stories come alive with interactive maps and other graphics. Find more webinars and reporting resources at nationalpress.org, and follow us on Twitter @NatPress.